Now we've got the final sowing of the peas completed. Going to move into the allotment greenhouse again and see about sorting out the tomatoes in the autopots. A couple of the AutoPot stations exactly as I left them last year. I'm going to give them a real good clean. With a system like this where you've got a feed pipe coming from a reservoir, it is important that you do get no blockages in here, because if you do, the water doesn't get through and the plants suffer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to strip each one of these down. There's nothing technical about it. These just fit on a little grommet. But there's two little ingenious stops here which work on floats, and a lot of these little rubber stops have a big function in whether the water's on or off, and you can actually strip all these down. Oh, there's dirt in there. So I'm going to clean all these off, get them, put them back together, get them working, and get the stations put on the board, and I'll come back. So I've started setting out the AutoPots. These are my original ones, and the bases I've just given them a little wash out and clean and put the valves back in with the copper mats, and just setting the pots out now. I've got the expanded clay pebbles in the bottom for substrate, so I'm going to be planting up. I'm potting the tomatoes now up into the auto watering systems. So it's got a cracking red ball on. Planting this a bit deeper as usual because they've gone a bit leggy. The compost I'm using is Bathgate. It's peat reduced multi-purpose, and that's because I've run out of the peat free stuff, but it should be okay on here. Regarding the tomato varieties, I've got basically two varieties. There's Crimson Crush and Sweet Million. Now I was going to do 2 Crimson Crush, 2 Sweet Million each side, but thinking about it, I've already got 12 Crimson Crush, or at least 11 out on the allotment or something like that anyway, quite a lot. So what I may end up doing is doing 3 Sweet Million and 1 Crimson Crush on each side. As usual, I'm giving these a good soaking in with the liquid seaweed feed. Sometimes it's better, if you can, to actually prepare the tubs with the plants a while before and try and get the roots to go right the way down. It does help the wicking process if the compost is wet. At the moment we're being treated to quite a heavy downpour. You can probably hear the blackbirds singing, they love this weather. But the main thing is it's soaking the ground with the veg in. That's got to be good. That's the first 4 AutoPots done. I've not put any canes in the moment except for the crimson one at the end. That's getting a bit leggy. I actually should have planted that a bit deeper, but not to worry. So that's where I'm going to leave this one for today. So tomorrow hopefully we can move across to this side and get the other AutoPots in with the new valves and see how they go. Got a cold, damp and drizzly start to the day today, but that's not going to stop my plans. What I want to do is to finally get the auto water systems set up in this greenhouse here and all the plants in. So let's get going. We featured the AutoPot system there, and over on this side we have another AutoPot system. As a disclaimer, I'd just like to mention that this system has been sent to me completely free of charge by AutoPot Global, and I'd like to say a big thank you to Jason and Ralph Smith, who's the MD over there. Anyway, I'll just talk you through this. I have done a full review of the AutoPot system, which is over here, which I'm going to call the original one. And the difference is this: it uses a system called the AQUAValve5. So rather than going through all the setup completely, I'll put a link into my review that I'm doing for this one. And on this system here, I'll just mention the additions, the enhancements, the improvements that have been made to the valve and the flow system, which does make this a better product. So let's carry on. As with the original system, we still have this black Marix disc which goes inside the pot. There's a 15 litre, by the way. And then we have this root control disc with the copper face facing upwards, which goes into actually the tray, and that pops in there. This is the 47 litre tank as usual. Inside the tank we've still got the little golf filter what fits just behind there, but looking outside it's noticeable that the piping has changed completely. Originally this was 6mm on the original system, and now this has changed to 9. It's quite a big difference really. When you look at the cross-sectional area, that is a 3-fold increase. It's actually increased by 3 times, and that results in, I think it's something like a 66% increased flow rate. So that there is going along right the way along the system. And also moving under these covers here, we come to the new AQUAValve5. Although it looks very similar in appearance, there are a few changes in there. Noticeably the increased aperture. Originally this was, I think, 2mm, then it went to 3mm, and now on the AQUAValve5 it is actually 5mm. With the enhanced AQUAValve system there's quite a few advantages. Obviously the increased diameter in the pipe, and that then is a bigger aperture into the float valve. As I said before, that's a 9mm, just over 9mm in diameter, and it's a 7mm bore, so you've got quite a good flow of nutrients in there. Now in the early days people used mineral nutrients, which are just like it's a dilution of somewhat similar thicknesses, but as time's gone on there's weird and wonderful all sorts of things now, and they're a lot thicker, and that would tendency to block or potentially block up the smaller 6mm pipes. However, with this larger diameter, that's not such the case. I know that this system has been put through its paces. It was originally, I think the design came out late 2020, early 21. And as I said, if you're familiar with the stuff called Airbase, which is quite a thick substance, that's been used quite successfully in this system without any issues. What they do recommend is inside this tank, or whatever tank you're using, if you are using quite a thick substance, is to actually put an air pump inside there, a little pump in there, not an air stone but a pump, and to give that a good blasting every, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, just to make sure the solution mixes, because as you're aware, you mix 2 solutions over a period of time, they will actually separate. But I tend to use, in here I'll use like a liquid seaweed which is not too thick, and never let this system drain completely. First of all, you'll get air in the system. I tend to let this maximum probably go down to half, maybe a third. I'll add a bit more nutrients, feed whatever I'm doing, and to get it to mix up, what I do is put a hose pipe on with quite a powerful spray jet, put that in there, give it some real good turbulence, and I find that works well for me. And I just keep your eye on the system and top it up, so I never let it dry completely. Included in the box which arrived, but is not part of the standard system, is this thing here, and this is called an Airbase. It's made out of tough ABS plastic and it's fully recyclable, it is. What it does is the centre is removable, and you can actually fit inside there a little air dome. If you look on the website, you'll actually see this in operation. I'll be using this as is and not using the air dome. So this, as I said, goes straight into the pot. If you notice, there's 13 little holes in the top, each with a little cross section at the bottom. And the idea of this is to reduce the need for actually having to use clay pebbles in the bottom. So you can put this in and go straight in with your substrate, whatever you use. But you do make sure that the substrate is actually goes down to there, because that's important for the wicking process. Regarding substrates, as usual, you can use preference. You can soil perlite, cocoa perlite, rock wool clay, cocoa clay, whatever you want. I'll be using a mixture of probably a peat-free compost together with perlite. I'm going to carry on now, get the pots filled and the plants put in. It's actually recommended that you prepare the pots probably 2 weeks before you commission this system. And because it works on a capillary system, wicking system, what it does is pulls the water up from the bottom. And ideally, when you put a plant in, you want the roots to be down this end. Obviously, when you put the plant in fresh, the roots are still going to be up there. So continue watering manually at least a fortnight before you set the system up. What I'll do, I'll put the plant in here, put the pot into the tray, but the system won't be switched on. And I'll water from the top. I'll water it, but I'll make sure the pot's out, because any debris, what does flush through, I don't want it contaminating the tray. I'll just use the tray purely as storage after we've watered. I mentioned earlier, the system isn't actually in use yet. The water's still shut off at the tank, but I'll still be using the trays just as storage for these pots. And I'm watering them manually, as you probably saw earlier. And between each watering, I take them out just to let them soak through, and then I return them. But the thing to do is make sure you clean the pots, and it reduces any debris going into the trays at the bottom. Well, that just about wraps it up. The 4 plants are in the pots. Must admit they look very, very pale at the moment, but that's down to me, that's my fault. They've been in the small pots far too long outside, so I reckon they're hungry. I've watered them already with a full strength seaweed solution, and I think that's what I'll be using initially once I turn the system on here. I'll be putting some liquid seaweed in there and topping it up, and let that feed it for a good while. But first of all, say for the next 2 weeks, I'll be trying to put roots down in here so the system won't be going on. I'd like to thank Jason again very much for giving me the opportunity to try out this system with the AQUAValve5, especially compared against the old system and all. And there's also one other thing, he has offered a 20% discount. I'll put the code along the bottom, so if you're interested in looking at one of these systems, have a look. There's a code at the bottom you can use, and also I think there might be a QR code. I'll put that up if need be. Pause the video and you'll be able to scan that. So that's about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye now.